Hey kids, we're back. You're watching Guitar Quackery Live. Yeah, this channel is called Guitar Quackery Live. That's what you're watching. And we have, this is going to be a really short live stream because I am working on this jazz bass. It's old, and yesterday, as I was live streaming part of the repair, part of the restoration work, we discovered that there's a truss rod issue. I try to explain this to the customer over, the phone text messages, and I think it would be beneficial to record this video. Actually, I just sent him a link so he can watch it. I see he's not logged on yet, but he might be, or he might watch the replay. He might be watching the replay at some later time. I don't know. We'll see what happens. Whatever happens, happens. Now, I'm also streaming. Oh. I'm also streaming outside. Hold on. Somebody's calling me just now. Okay. I'm trying to focus on my work here. I'm going to have to send my usual text message reply to my callers. So I get, I can't really pick up the phone anymore. Yeah, that's how it needs to be. So it just automatically, I'm going to send a text message back. So let me find copy and paste here. So sorry about this interruption. But I have like a standard text message that I copy and paste these days. Okay. Somebody with a California phone number. They're not necessarily out of state. But here, paste and this way we can communicate. I prefer to communicate via text message anyway, because this way I don't need to try to remember what we talked about. I just check. Okay, so there's a truss rod issue with the jazz bass. I don't have the jazz bass right here. I don't need to have it here to explain what the issue is. So, as I was explaining yesterday, I believe the truss rod is somehow maxed out. And now I'm going to explain what that might mean. I'm not really sure if it's maxed out. I just know that I can no longer tighten it. And if you force it, you might snap the truss rod. So this is a sample truss rod. It's a Fender truss rod. And I'm going to show you all the parts of the truss rod, and that's going to explain what the issue is or might be with the truss rod on the bass, right? So here, this is the truss rod nut. Okay. Now, this threaded portion isn't always as long as we see on this truss rod. Sometimes it's shorter. Okay. It depends when the instrument, the bass or the guitar was made, etc. Right? So sometimes it can be maxed out in a couple of ways. Let's say that that this tip of this truss rod, threaded portion of the truss rod, can no longer go any further inside. So as how should I explain this? Okay, so So this is the anchoring spacer that's installed inside of the neck, right? So as you tighten the truss rod, eventually it hits this spacer, and as I tighten it, it actually keeps pulling the truss rod in this direction. And in some cases, this anchor that's on this side pulls, it crushes the wood fibers, and the whole truss rod moves in this direction. So what can end up happening is one of the two things. So right now the truss rod is still functioning, because as you can see, you still have a threaded portion in this area here, from this point all the way down to this point. But as you keep tightening, if the truss rod keeps pulling in this direction, you eventually hit a maximum. So now this is no longer tight. Okay, this is now a loose connection between the truss rod nut and the spacer. No, it would never be as loose as this, but you know, I'm just illustrating here. And now if you keep tightening, so let me remove this washer, you will be spinning the truss rod. So in this case, it's maxed out inside of this nut. So the tip of the truss rod, of the threaded portion of the truss rod, hit the end of the internal thread here. It can be maxed out in a different way as well. So it could be maxed out in this direction, where perhaps this is too short, and now this just hits the end of the threaded portion here. So this thread, and the same thing happens if you just keep turning. Let me put it back. If you just keep turning it, you're going to be turning the entire truss rod, and this is the weak point where the truss rod is going to snap. Okay? So once you snap the truss rod, well, repairs are possible, but more complicated. So what are some of the solutions? Like I said, I make these brass spacers. I make them in different sizes, in terms of thickness, and also all truss rods are not the same diameter, etc. Right? So here I have, let's say, 3 of them. As you can see, they're not all the same height. So I'll use one of them to show you what happens. So let's say that we can no longer tighten it any longer, right? We have like this loose connection here. Okay, so now we remove this, and I think you can see where this is going. We insert the spacer inside, and now we can keep adjusting the truss rod, okay? Because now it's no longer maxed out, okay? So this is the economy solution. All we need is a spacer like this, okay? Now the disadvantage of this is once it's inside of the neck, this spacer is almost impossible to remove if you ever need to remove it. So the more involved solution would be to make a new nut, and imagine this nut having the spacer attached to it. It wouldn't really have a spacer attached to it. It would just be one piece of metal that has this kind of recessed area before the threaded portion begins, right? Okay? So now, if you need to service it, you can easily remove the entire nut and replace it. And there's another issue. it seems like Fender, for whatever reason, they make these truss rod nuts out of steel. Now this is steel, and this is steel. So I think it's better if a truss rod nut is made out of brass, because steel is harder than brass. Now imagine this was brass. So if something's going to break, it's better that the softer metal breaks, right? It's more likely that the softer metal would break, and then you can just remove it and replace it, put another one there. But when you have a steel truss rod nut, I mean, it works, but now you don't have one of the two metals being softer. In fact, this is bulkier. So it kind of intuitively feels that if there's anything happening here, the weaker component is more likely to break, which is this one, because it's smaller and it's got all these cuts going across. So the advantage of making a new truss rod nut with you know, this kind of attached to it would be that it would also be made out of brass instead of steel. Now, the only type that I've ever made on my milling machine was this type with this kind of with a cross, right? This type. I don't know how I would be able to make one with a hexagonal hole. I don't have the tooling for this, right? So that's what I think is going on with that bass. So I believe so, because as I'm sure you understand, I adjust truss rods every day. So I have enough experience to feel when it's getting to the point that it feels too tight, and if I risk it, it's probably maxed out, right? So if I risk it, I'm probably going to snap the truss rod, and I cannot take that risk. So once again, I'm posting this very short live stream. It's 12 minutes long, just to explain this issue. It'll get archived, so I can also use this archived live stream later for other customers. But the my intention was to communicate to the current customer about options, right? So that's that. All right. So if you feel that you learned something new, that that it helped you out somehow in any way, just make sure you click. If you want to catch me live at work, click the subscribe button and the the notification button, right? And if you want to see that this channel grows, so this is the only live streaming guitar repair channel that I know of. I believe I'm the only one, right? So it's a unique thing, right? I let my customers watch me work on their guitars and basses, in this case, in real time, right? It's an experience for the customers, and also it's an archival thing, and I'm also sharing some knowledge for everyone who wants to learn this business. So make sure you tell your friends, or go on guitar forums and tell everyone to, maybe visit this channel. Okay, so enough talking. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you soon, I guess.